Good morning, everyone. Professor Corte here, and welcome back to CIS 102. We are still on problem solving this week. We'll be for a couple more weeks. So far, everything we've done with problem solving had to do with individual problem solving, just you solving a problem or me solving a problem. Never with another individual or groups of individuals. Now, there are benefits to both ways. Okay. But there is going to be times when you will like to have a group of individuals that'll be working with you. But before we actually get into it, let's take a look and see what's going on for the week at a glance here, just to make sure we're on the same page. Excuse me. Yeah. Problem solving part three, identifying, defining a problem. That information was due. If you haven't gotten it in, by all means, please do so. Also, take a look at your grade books. If you have a zero, that suggests that maybe you didn't import something correctly or didn't import at all, upload it all, but by all means, get those in. If you can get them in relatively quickly, I won't dock because of the lateness, but I do want to get those points in so we don't have to worry about those. So you're watching this video, which is good. So that's what I want you to start with. Then we're going to move on to talking specifically, and you're going to be working specifically with part four, which is group decision making. There will be assignments. Again, everything is in the Blackboard site. And let's move on here just a little bit. In a little bit, I'll put up the fact sheet. But let me stop to share and talk just a little bit about what I mean by group decision making. Now, again, as I mentioned, there are times when you may only have an opportunity to resolve a problem by yourself. There's just nobody else around to ask a question. Or you may be, I hate to say for the lack of a better term, the most qualified person, and others just really couldn't add to the conversation. But when it comes to business, or particularly when you have larger, more complex, more important decisions, group decisions work the best. Okay. And as you can think about it, two heads are probably better to resolve the problem than one, three are better than two, and so on and so on. However, and I want to make a big however here, there is a limit to the number of people who should be part of a team in decision making. Now that number varies, but I think if you have about eight people is probably pushing the limit. Granted, you have teams, sports teams that have larger numbers of people, and yeah, that's kind of solving a problem. But I think if you are working with a one group that by itself is to resolve a problem, 5 to 8 is probably a good number. Now, yes, you can do it with two people, three people, but I think about eight is probably pushing the limit. The reason for that is the more people you have working, you have what we call subgroup development. Now, you may have 8 people, or let's say 10 people, and five of them may want to go one way and the other five might want to go another way. Well, that's actually counteractive. It does not help the situation, it actually slows it down. But there are times when you may have a couple of hundred people working on it, but each of those 100 people belong to a subgroup that is devoted to a specific thing to work on that'll help resolve the problem. An example in business might be as you probably know or may know, you will have finance people, you will have marketing people, you have management people, accounting people, manufacturing people, and so on. And if you have a major problem within an organization, you will need representatives of all those areas who will come together and help resolve a major problem. So, what would happen in very large groups is all the marketing people would work on their part, all the accounting people work on their part, all the finance, and so on and so on. And then they would all come together as one group and share their expertise at resolving the problem. So, again, group decision is extremely positive, but it can also be counterproductive. But in general, if it's a major problem, major concern, an expensive, a very important decision to be made, you know, more than one individual is your best. So let's go ahead, excuse me, and take a look at the worksheet or fact sheet for this week, and we'll talk a bit about the pieces here. Now, here's the fact sheet. As you can see, it looks like the other fact sheets. Yes, there are several videos. Some I've created, like this one, and maybe most of them, though, generally are videos from YouTube that I found. Again, watch them if you like. As I mentioned before, and I'll mention it one last time, or hopefully it'll be the last time, is that we are multiple ways of learners. Some people like to read, some people like to view, some people like to listen. I think, though, generally people like to have a visual to support a written document. So that's why I have the videos. So if you like watching the videos or you think it's important to watch the videos, watch them. But let's see, we'll start here. Understanding group dynamics. Well, groups of people are groups of individuals. Now, unless you are cloned, everybody you work with has different traits, different abilities, different biases, different opinions. And it's that ability to be able to work understanding that those dynamics, those differences are going to be there that you need to know. So understanding group dynamics, what makes a group work, what makes a group think are important. So this objective 25 will help you out there. Evolving from a group to a team. Now, there's two different words here. A group could be a gathering of any individuals. You could go out, and I could go out right now, just grab 5, 10 people off the street, and they're a group. Now, they're not a team because they don't know each other. They don't know how each other works. They don't know what makes each other tick, so to speak. And they don't know and sometimes they don't know their individual part of a team. So what we need to do is get the groups together. There's five phases of team development. The first phase, and this I don't think is in the book, but I'm going to tell it to you anyways, is what we call the honeymoon phase. Groups get together, people unique with their own special characteristics, their own special abilities. They get together, and it's very exciting. It's new. We're going to work on something together, and away we go. The next phase, which is generally a short phase, is what we call a storming phase. Well, marketing people think that they know more than finance people who think they know more than accounting people. Sometimes, but we all think we're very territorial. We like that we think that our part of the piece is probably the most important. So there could be issues, but they're not terribly large issues, and they usually go away. We then move on to what we call the norming phase. The norming phase is when we realize we have issues, but we move on and we continue to work at resolving the problem or whatever the end result is. Then we go to what we call the performing phase, and that's when things start working. The team's working together, you're having successes, and away you go. And then we have the resolving phase where you come and you end up with a solution. Or in a team, you win the game, or you complete the project. So that's what we're talking about, how groups evolve to teams and the teams evolve into what we call productive entities. Convergent versus divergent thinking, it's how you think internally versus externally and how you communicate with people. Again, there's a good video on that. It's going to tell you 28. Here we'll talk about convergent thinking. How do you reach closure? Okay. Closure is basically coming to a one conclusion. Now, what do I mean by conclusion? Conclusion means you have a way to resolve something. Now, is it the best way? Maybe not. Is it the easiest way? Maybe not. Does everybody agree with it? Well, yes, that's the important thing. Everybody agrees. They may not particularly like the solution, but they agree that, yeah, this is probably the best solution. So closure actually can take some time. Getting all the facts and bringing them to the table is time consuming, but when everybody sits there and digests it, that's where critical thinking comes in and group dynamics and coming up with a closure can be very important. There are group traps. Again, those are primarily the individual biases of the groups, but this will talk more. Larger groups, I've already mentioned it. The bigger they are, sometimes the more difficult they can be or more complex. So again, smaller groups generally are easier to work with, but larger groups certainly can work successfully if handled properly. And then building sustainable agreements, meaning that everybody agrees and will stick with it to the very end. Okay. Time can be the biggest detractor from an agreement. Okay, the more time that passes, the more you think about it, the more you question it and whatnot. So Objective 32 will help you out with figuring the best way of getting around these types of problems. All right, so that's the week at a glance. All these files, everything you need is in the Blackboard site. So as usual, do objective 25. The first objective does not have an activity to do, but do it. It introduces it and gets you going. Then up to objective 26. Read or view if you want, read them. Pages 76 to 77. Do the worksheet. Maybe be sure to put your name on the top right corner, I believe. And then you can either upload each worksheet individually or you can upload all 7 together. Your call, not a problem. Whatever works best for you. But remember to keep a copy on your computer. All right, I think that's about all I need to cover for this week's activities. Again, if you have outstanding assignments that you haven't gotten in yet, please do so. Get those in so I can get your points into the grade book. And as always, if you have problems, concerns, let me know. Send me an email. Some of you have done it, and I think we've worked them out pretty well. All right, that's all I've got this week. Talk to you later. Later. Bye.